Selling snacks and drinks, man, from cinnamon rolls to Snickers to chips.
No
You know,
shit.
yes, yes, man. So I had one location that was doing. They had over 350 people. I had 10 machines at that location. From the time my driver or me got to the location, it took 2.5 hours to fill up the entire location. But it was doing about $6,000 a month in cash flow. I mean, just churn, and that's a lot for vending. That's a lot for vending.
Six
I mean,
thousand dollars a month. How
yep.
often were you having to refill the thing?
I was there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or my drivers were. You had to be there every other day in order to keep up. And when I would get there, like I would literally get there at 5 in the morning on Monday morning, and they were completely empty. Every machine was completely empty.
All right, Tim, welcome to the show, my man.
Ross, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you on. Fellow real estate guy, real estate investor. I love doing the real estate episodes, man.
Me too, absolutely. I love talking shop, man. Anytime.
That's it, brother. What's today, man? Monday, bro. How's your Monday afternoon going today, man?
Monday's pretty good, man. I got a little contract out offered on a little 5 unit complex in Northeast Houston, I should say. And then we sold a quick little flip we're doing here in Pearland, man. We were going to flip it ourselves, but we decided to wholesale it real quick. We got a couple projects going on. So we got a
Nice,
full
bro.
price offer on that. So that's always good.
My man, you always staying busy, bro. I always get
Man, I
the
try.
get your emails, man.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
always got a deal, bro. You the man.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
for the listeners out there, man, that aren't familiar with you and what you do, would you mind to give us like a brief overview of what you're all about?
Absolutely, absolutely. What I do is I do wholesale, I do flipping. I wholesale, single family. I wholesale land. I wholesale commercial properties, whether that be apartments, strip centers, RV parks, storage businesses, mobile home parks. I kind of run the whole gambit on the commercial side, and then I also do the wholesaling of the houses, like I said, or we actually do the rehabbing ourselves. So right now we've got three properties that we're selling. Two are sold. One we should have gotten an offer on today. That flips that we did here in Pearland. Actually, two in my old neighborhood that I grew up in, and we have a 20-unit apartment complex in Alvin, 22 units in Leak City that we rehab from the studs out. That uh, our buddy Cody Purtle brought to me. I actually did a deal with him.
Nice, man. Cody
Yeah,
was just on the
yeah.
show.
Yep. I saw that session you guys did. I enjoyed it. I thoroughly
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
it's a
You
cool
know.
cat right there, and his partner hopped on also.
Yeah. There
Uh,
at the end. Yep.
yeah. We got
So
no, we did it. We did a whole episode. It'll be
yeah,
coming
yeah,
out
exactly.
soon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. And then I also do. We also did started a mastermind. My partners and I. We did a small mastermind. We got about 22 students. Very affordable, like $200 a month. We did it for a few months, and just giving out some great content, just teaching people, man, just teaching. I'm a big believer. If you're not teaching or learning, you're standing still.
mm,
So I like to take my knowledge, like to give my knowledge back to people, just kind of pay it forward, man.
I love it, bro. Dude, you got a lot on the plate, man.
Yes, yes, I
You
do. Yes,
mentioned
I
that
do.
you do the rehabs yourself. Do you have an in-house construction crew of your own?
No, that's kind of our next step. What we want to do, though, is we have a couple guys that we kind of lean on that are really good guys that are quick, that do stuff quick for us. That will say, if we have a $30,000 bid and we need it to be 27, they'll make it 27 because we just keep them busy. So that's kind of our next step. What we're looking to evolve into right now. We just have a lot of stuff on our plate that once we get all these properties secured that we're working on, probably then that's going to be our goal for 2021 is to start our own in-house construction.
Nice. Awesome,
Yes,
man.
for sure.
So you play and ball in many different asset classes, right?
Yes.
Very, very versatile. Now, Tim, how long have you been investing for?
Man, I've been investing really since about 2017. I did a few flips back in 2015, but I think still have the dollar bill I made off my first couple of flips just because I was so new to the game. At the time, I wasn't doing it full time. I had a job working at the plants. I made a lot of mistakes early in my career, but really started seriously investing probably at the end of 2017 into 2018. and I've been doing it ever since.
No shit. So
Yep.
you've only been in the game for about 3 years?
Yep. I've had my real estate license for 10 years now. But I just really started I did the wholesaling, for I've been doing wholesaling about 8.5 years. And then I just started realizing, man, about, 3 years ago, I just like, man, I'm making a lot of people a lot of money. I'm getting really good deals, really good prices. I was like, got to stop passing all this stuff on. I got to start taking it on myself, and just kind of took that leap of faith, hey, let me figure this out. And, if I lose, I won't lose that back because I can always send it to my buyers list and sell it.
Mm. Okay, so you were wholesaling and you had a realtor's license, but then just recently, within the last couple of years, you got into actually investing yourself.
Exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
all right.
And what actually drove me to kind of going from a regular real estate license, I was doing, hosting open houses. I was showing people properties, but what did it for me was it wasn't my full-time job. I had a full-time job in the plants and I was off every other weekend. And one weekend off, I helped this lady and her husband wanted to look at houses. We had 4 houses on the Saturday and none on Sunday. Well, my daughter at the time was 6, so 7 years ago. She started playing, and I said, okay, well, I'll tell my wife I'll be at the tournament in the afternoon after I get done showing houses. No big deal, blah, blah, blah. Well, 4 houses turned into 7 because I was a new agent and I didn't realize, we'd look at a house and there'd be a neighbor's house be for sale. And she's like, well, I want to see that one too. So I would call and, make an appointment and not realizing that's not really how you did things back then. And then Sunday we were supposed to not look at houses. And she called me Sunday morning, hey, I want to look at these 5 houses, which turned into 8, So, back in those days, people would look at 14, 15 houses and never make an offer. And so I was like, man, there's got to be a better way to do this, and, funny story, I had a vending machine business at the time. And I had 2 drivers, 2 trucks, had 130 machines and 30 locations around Houston. And, I started looking at a house like a vending machine. I'm like, the house will sell itself if you have the right stuff in it. And that's when I just kind of started changing the game, going, man, I can do this differently and not deal with regular buyers who are picky. I'm going to deal with investors who look for opportunities, and just kind of dug into the whole flipping. I started, reading books and listening to, anybody I can listen to, on YouTube or whatever, just talk about how you got in the game. And that's actually kind of where I ended up, running across some of your stuff, back in the day, just looking at different things and able to say, well, I can do this another way and market to a whole new class of people.
That's awesome, bro. I'm curious, man. What vending machine business were you in? What were you selling?
Selling snacks and drinks, man, from cinnamon rolls to Snickers to chips.
No shit.
Yes, man. So I had one location that was doing. They had over 350 people. I had 10 machines at that location. From the time my driver or me got to the location, it took 2.5 hours to fill up the entire location. But it was doing about $6,000 a month in cash flow. I mean, just churn, and that's a lot for vending.
$6,000 a month. How
Yep.
often were you having to refill the thing?
I was there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or my drivers were. You had to be there every other day in order to keep up. And when I would get there, like I would literally get there at 5 a.m. on Monday morning, and they were completely empty. Every machine was completely empty,
Wow.
And I'm just going around. I picked up about $500 to $550 every time I was out there. It was a kind of location where literally I would fill up the snack machine in the main warehouse. I would go fill up the rest of the location. I'd come back to that snack machine that was almost already empty. And then I would just take out like 80 or $100 cash and I'd refill it and I'd keep on going.
Wow. And what was it? You said it was in like a warehouse. So was it like the
Yeah.
employees that were just using
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. They had 350 employees. They do a lot of like offshore oil rig parts, like pipes and stuff and clamps and different things. And man, it was hot in the summertime and cold in the wintertime, but they still bought food and sodas, man. They bought Monster drinks, Gatorades, waters. Man, I was selling Monster drinks $3 a can, and they were buying it like nothing.
That's crazy, bro. That's awesome, man. I like the vending machine hustle. I do, man.
Yeah.
I do. I've seen videos on YouTube of some cats running around with the machines and whatnot.
Yep.
And
it's good. It's good business until. Yeah, it's good business until, my buddy asked me one day, he's like, how much do you make an hour? And I wasn't looking at the hourly. I was looking at the fact that, one, I always had cash in my pocket. And 2, it was a huge loss at the end of the year. So I was always it was like a big savings account. At the end of the year, I got all my money back. I can always write off spoiled product, busted cans, labor, gas, mileage, all
Right.
that stuff. But man, it's a young man's game, man. I'm
It's a
I'm
grind.
45, 45. It's a grind.
It's a
It's
grind.
a grind.
And you
You
also
know.
you gotta lock in the premier locations, man. Like
Yes.
most of the
Yes.
most of the hot spots are taken already.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
shopping
And
malls,
and
hospitals, they're taken.
yep. Yep. And if you have a hotspot like that, it's just like real estate. People call every day, every week on the location and say, "Hey, is your vending machine service adequate?" And that's how I got some of my good accounts. I just drove by and saw that people buying off a taco truck, or I'd walk inside and or even people would tell me, "Hey, there's a guy at the end of the street. He's not taking care of his location. Come talk to us." And because they knew I was in the area, I had a big white truck, big box truck, with a
Yeah.
little logo on the side. Full moon vending is what I called it. So I loved it, man. I enjoyed it. But boy, it takes a toll on you.
Yeah,
It takes a
yeah.
toll.
That's
You know,
definitely that's a grind, man. How much do one of those Coke machines cost?
man, brand new for the big bad ones are about 6,000. You
Okay.
can buy refurbished ones for about 3,700. And man, I actually went to Des Moines, Iowa for a week because I had so much of their. I had 137 machines. So I had a big account with them, and they actually, I called them and said, "Hey, I'm always having service calls for these little parts and stuff that, can you guys teach me how to do it?" And they actually gave me a class for free. So I was up there for a week learning how to troubleshoot my own vending machines and fix them and fix motors, fix little things that went out, sensors. But like the Freon and stuff, right? The Coke machines, I never mess with that stuff. I just always outsourced all that stuff. You needed a license for that.
Mm, that's cool,
So
bro. Wow, that's a lot of
yeah,
machines too, man. Holy
it's a lot.
smokes.
That's a
That's
lot.
a lot going on, man. To keep track of all that
Yep.
that inventory. That's cool, bro. So, Tim, man, let's go back in time here, right? Because you're doing a bunch of real estate stuff now. You're buying apartment buildings. You're flipping mobile home parks. I mean, you're kind of doing it all. But let's talk about what life was like in your early years. So, first off, where did you grow up?
Man, I was born and raised in Pearland, Texas, just about 20 minutes south of Houston on 288. When I grew up in Pearland, I was born in 1974, graduated in 1993. We lived in the Wood Creek subdivision here in Pearland on the east side, Dixie Farm 518. We had about 28,000 people in Pearland, man, when I was growing up back in the good old days when you didn't have to lock your doors. Went to Pearland High School, graduated. We were a 5A school by a population, but that was about it. I played football, basketball, baseball, um, ran track. So I grew up here in Pearland, man, born and raised. I've been here my whole life. I actually live about 10 minutes from where I grew up.
Oh
You know.
shit, that's cool, bro.
Yep. Yep.
It's your hometown, man. Pearland's a nice
Hometown.
place, bro. I've been there many times.
It's blown up, man. It is blown up. I stay off of 518 nowadays. I use all the back roads I learned growing up as a kid. Now I use them as an adult to avoid traffic.
Yeah, man. I flipped one house in Pearland in my career so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bodine Drive, Bodine Circle.
Yeah. 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 I know where it is.
You know where that's at?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
bought a house over there, man. I sold it. It didn't go so well, but
Really?
I made a few mistakes. It was my fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, man. Pearland's definitely popping off, man. Lot of action over there, bro. It must be
Tons of
crazy to
action, man.
see
Tons of stuff.
the growth over the years since you've lived there.
Man, it's a good and a bad thing. I'll be honest with you. Back in the day when we had Kmart and stuff, I mean, we could run to Kmart and with my buddies, we'd ride our bikes up there. And, if you were cutting up, man, literally, Miss Smith or Miss Jones would be like, "Tim Luna, I'm gonna call your mom," and I'm like, "Oh crap," let me kind of be on my best behavior. Well, man, now that it's lost that hometown feel, that small town feeling. We'd had like 130,000 people in Pearland now,
Mm,
about a census a few years ago, but still a great place to raise your family, man. Great schools, great. My daughter plays competitive softball. She started here at the dad's club here where they play softball and baseball. So still tons of great things out here, man. Good, it's kind of still got, you can still find little pockets of small town feel like I live here on a half acre, man. We have a small little community, 38 houses. So it's like our own, it's not gated, but it's like our own little community, man. Look out for each other and it's just quiet, you know.
mm. Yeah, man. It's interesting that you just mentioned that small time vibe because I was literally having this conversation like 2 days ago. So I'm from up north, right? And up north, New York, New Jersey, of course there's cities, but there's villages, right, and like
Right.
townships. It's built differently than
Right.
Southeast Texas or Texas in general, where like you'll have like your little village, and it's like that small town vibe. But in Houston, it's like, bro, Katy. I used to live in Katy, man. Katy's just like just too much going on, bro. And
A
I
lot,
like that
man.
small town vibe.
It's a lot.
I'm like a fan of that. So I don't know, man. It's interesting because when cities just blow up so much, man, it's like you get a whole bunch of people moving in, companies coming in, building up, and you just like you lose that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I feel
Good for
you.
the economy, but that's about it.
Yeah, definitely good for the economy, man.
Yeah.
Damn, in Texas, they'll put up a Walmart in like 3 months, bro. It's like
Yep.
it come in and it's done, man.
Hey, the funny thing is the Walmart here at Pearland and at Dixie Farm 518 used to be a driving range. That was my first job I worked at the driving range, driving a little cart, picking up balls at night and stuff. And man, that guy sold that property to Walmart for like $1 million and shut that thing down real quick. I was like, well, good for you.
Hey, why not, man? You know,
Yeah.
there's a. I used to live in Galleria too, right?
Yep.
So there's a Target right there on San Felipe, and there's all these
Uh-huh.
high rises going up like crazy. And I heard from a birdie that Target was just gonna sell because, or whoever owns that land is gonna sell because there's just so much going on that it'd be much more beneficial to sell to a developer that's gonna build a high
Yeah.
rise than to
Yep.
keep that like it is, So, hey, can't be mad at him, bro. Can't be
No.
mad.
Uh-uh.
So Tim,
No,
man,
no,
what
no.
kind of upbringing did you have, man? Like, how do you do in school? Like, what was it like for you growing up in Pearland, man?
Man, it was good, man. It was a great childhood. My mom worked at NASA. She worked for NASA over 40 years, man, worked in public affairs. Did a lot of like, Freedom of Information Act stuff, So my dad was a teamster. He drove 18 wheelers for UPS. He would, his, at the end of his career, he drove to Houma, Louisiana every day. And I-10 was like his office, man. My wife and I would get in the car and we go down to Louisiana, Lake Charles to the casino, and he'd call me, hey, where you at? Or I'd call him, hey, I'm at mile marker or whatever. He's like, yeah, watch out. There's a cop, when you pass mile marker or whatever. And sure enough, that cop's sitting right there. I'm like, all right, thanks, appreciate it. He's like, hey, you got construction here, construction there.
Yeah.
But every night he was home, man. Every night we got home from school, did our homework. We ate dinner. My mom got home, made dinner, and he ate. My dad ate real quick, and we were in the backyard, man. We were playing basketball, or he was, working on pitching with my brother was a pitcher in baseball, and I pitched too. In Little League, everybody pitched in Little League, right? So he's working with us on our swing, and and that, so that kind of work ethic, man. You got up, went to work every day, came home, and did what you did with the kiddos. That's why I coach my daughter's competitive softball team. She's played in 7 or 8 states in the country, softball tournaments all over. My son, he plays competitive golf. So I have golf lessons with him once a week. We play every other chance we can get. My daughter has practice once a week and tournaments every other weekend, or if not every weekend. So grew up, man. We had good things. We were, a middle class family, man. I had all the new Jordans when they came out when I wanted them, and had the nice clothes, but I grew up. I was a good student, man. I mean, I was never going to go to Harvard or anything like that, but went to community college, a couple years, and I was going to go to U of H for hotel restaurant management. I was taking on my prerequisites. Well, at the time, I was working at Landry's down in Kemah, and I was learning everything I needed to know in 6 or 8 months that they would have taught me in 2 or 3 years. So I just kind of did school, and my oldest daughter was born right out of high school. So I had a mouth to feed, man. So started working and got myself into management. Started working my way through the management there, and bounced around to a few different companies before I ended up making the leap into the chemical plant business, which is big business down here.
Of
Everybody can be
course.
an operator.
So at Landry's, what were you doing for them?
I was just a restaurant, front of the house manager. I made the schedule for like the bar or the wait staff or the hostesses, and then just ran the shifts, man. Handle customer complaints, which is always fun, and did all the deposits at the end of the night, took everybody's money, went to the bank, just ran things and made schedules, looked at books, financials, and that's where I really started learning about budgets and what you can spend, what you can't spend, on a large scale. Landry's is, and down in Kima, that's their flagship, man. I mean, I've met Tillman many times. I've ridden in his helicopter.
No
You know,
shit.
yeah, yeah. So what he would do is he would come down and when they bought the waterfront, when he bought all the restaurants out on the waterfront, they would go down there with it used to be the old Kima Cantina, and it's the aquarium now. So they would go down there and have big meetings. They had a big meeting room over there, big banquet hall. So the pilot would come down. He would stay with us, and he would eat. Well, as soon as he was done, he's like, "Hey, I want to take a quick trip." We'd hop in the helicopter and ride around for 10 minutes and come back. And then Tim would walk back through and get in the helicopter and take off. I was actually in the aquarium when they brought the fish tank in the aquarium from Houston on a helicopter, and I was there in the building when they lowered it down around the staircase. So that was
Tillman
pretty cool,
Fertitta,
man.
bro. That guy's a beast, man.
And yeah, I've seen that guy. I've seen that guy drop kick a trash can in a 3-piece suit. Guy's intense,
man. So for the listeners out there, if you don't know who Tillman Fertitta is, Google this guy. He pretty much owns a lot. He owns all the Golden Nugget casinos. He owns the Houston Rockets. He owns the Landry's restaurant conglomerate. Which, by the way, man, what's your favorite Landry's concept?
Man, I mean, it wasn't a concept at first, but I mean, I always loved the Saltgrass, man. I mean, I know he's taken over a lot of the Saltgrass. I mean, I worked for both. I worked for Landry's and I worked for Saltgrass when he didn't own Saltgrass. But man, I love Saltgrass steaks.
Saltgrass goes hard,
the bread
bro.
and the honey butter.
Saltgrass Steakhouse, man. Dude, my favorite thing, bro, is to go down to the Nugget in Lake Charles, hit that Saltgrass up, hit the casino. It's a good night. You can't go wrong, man.
You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Don't play the slots, though, man. They got those slots too tight. They don't want to give any of that money.
They're tight, bro. They are tight.
Man.
They're tight over there. Tillman, he cranks it up a little bit.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
Oh, man. Yeah, bro. I've heard that Tillman is very strict when it comes to, like, if you go into the Nugget, you could eat off the floor. That place is so damn clean.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I heard one of his employees told me, man, Tillman is very strict when it comes to the cleanliness of his properties and all that shit. He said people say he's a tough guy to work for. I don't know if that's true. I never worked for the man, but yeah.
He'll beat you down. I mean, he's the kind of guy that, he has a high expectation, but he also holds you accountable, man. Like I said, I saw him drop kick a trash can because it was full. And I mean, I'm talking like in the breezeway, like as soon as you walk into Landry's, there was a full trash can, and he was like, "This is the first thing I got to see when I come into my restaurant." It was like 3:00 on a Wednesday, so there was nobody in the restaurant hardly, but a couple people. And the guy took like 4 or 5 steps and just jumped up and kicked it, and trash went everywhere. And we were like, "What is going on here?" And at the time, I was 23. I was like, "What the hell is this guy doing?" He's a billionaire, drop kicking trash cans. And like Ric Flair or something. I was like, "Good Lord," but. It's one of these things, man. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I take these things with me, when I own properties now. I mean, we have a 20-unit apartment complex in Alvin. I'm like, we did one in League City, 22 units, man. And, that thing's, a gym. And we're trying to get this one, they're the Beauregard Apartments, one of the worst apartment complexes in Alvin. And I just have a hard time going down there going, man, this place needs to look like that, but it takes time, So, when I have a contractor out there, I'm like, "Hey, look, man, I chewed this guy's ass out the other day. He has his trash out in front of the unit." And I'm like, "Hey, man, like, throw that stuff in the dumpster. We have a dumpster here for you. Throw it in the dumpster." The next day I went out there, he was gone and the trash was still there. And I called him. I said, "Look, you can't do this for me. You're not going to work with us." And I jokingly tell my kids the same thing every once in a while. I'm like, it's the ability to follow simple instruction. Clean up after yourself. Put your stuff away, whatever, work clean, and that's Tillman's big thing, man, is he used to always just want things to be clean.
Now, you said that you currently own a 20 unit in Alvin, Texas.
28 unit, yep.
28 unit. And did you say you're in the process of buying another one in Alvin?
Well, I'm working on another. I have 22 in League City, and then we're in the process of 100 units in Southeast Houston, Pasadena.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we've just been chasing the guy for a while, and we're just going back and forth with the attorneys now for the contract,
Right.
trying to get it all secured.
Well, you mentioned that you said one of the worst apartment complexes in Alvin.
Yeah.
What did you
The
mean
one
by
at,
that?
so this Beauregard apartment complex, man, it's 415 North Beauregard. It's it's just an older complex. They're all efficiencies. There's one 2 bedroom out there, um, but man, it's just a rundown. Hasn't been cared for very much. We actually bought it on an owner finance deal. Got a really good deal on it. Bought it on owner finance, just not very much money down. Owners don't want to pay their house off. We did that for them, and we actually got $10,000 at closing. We actually did on our YouTube channel. We actually did a little session on it and showed how we were able to get 10,000 back buying $1 million apartment complex. And so just turning the units around, man. We had 22 tenants. We're down to 14 because people are just weird. You buy a complex and you clean it up, and you come out and you bring a pest control person out to kill the roaches and the mice and all that stuff out there, and people leave, and it's like, one lady said, I'm faithful to the old owner. I'm like, well, we're fixing units, we're cleaning the place up, we're making sure the dumpster doesn't have stuff from the trailer park next door, trash in front of our dumpster. We're doing things to make it better. So man, it's a process. We've had it now. We bought it April 1st. With COVID going on, we've been going through evictions left and right, man. People just don't want to pay, and they're using this as an excuse, and it's tough. It's hard to have sympathy for people who they're working and they just don't want to pay because they don't think they have to. One lady told me, I went to introduce myself the first day we took over, and I said, I'm Tim Loon, I'm one of the owners, and she said, the news said I don't have to pay my rent, so I'm not going to pay. I'm like, that's not really the way it works, and just the culture out there has to change. We're like I said, we're just trying to make the place good and make it better. And we went out there last week. We have our meetings out there every Wednesday to monitor our rehab. And we have 3 units. We have 5 units being worked right now. We have 2 tenants waiting for the units. Once they're rehabbed, we'll put two more tenants in. So we're just kind of doing like 3 to 4 at a time. And as our other deals come online and we get more capital injections in, then what we'll do is just continue to rehab, and hopefully eventually 6 months to a year, hopefully have that place turned around. And like I said, it's probably one of the worst. Beauregard Apartments is one of the worst complexes in Alvin. Everybody I've talked to in Alvin, with when I cold call and I tell them I own that complex, they're like, oh, bless your heart, and I'm like, yeah, pretty much, so
Really?
it's tough.
Now,
Yep.
is there like drug deals going on at this kind of place, or like, I'm trying to like
Man,
vision it for myself, because when you said like the worst, I'm expecting like
it,
rundown gangs, drugs, all that.
it's they're run down. The people there are just, it's a circus of people, man. It's just it's the one guy we had there, we kicked him out because he couldn't pay rent. Well, we just served him with an eviction notice. We just you could have played the game and stayed another 6 weeks to 8 weeks and gone through the courts, but he grabbed all of his stuff and left, and he kicked the water line as he left, because these are old little plastic plumbing lines, and he kicked the water line and busted the water line. And so we got a call on a Friday night, man, at 9:00 from one of the tenants. Hey, there's water pouring out of this unit, and the guy just left. And I was at softball fields, and my partners went over there, and they helped get the water turned off. And it's just a different class of people, man, when you're dealing with that. People they're just different, man. And it's when you have $700 rents, $650 rents, but it's going to be a great cash flowing property. It really is. But we bought it at friggin' 12 cap, when it was running.
Right.
And that's what 6 vacant units, so it's painted jailhouse gray. It's just the ugliest color, man. It's just the ugliest color. The parking lot is constantly flooded. We're dealing with, cleaning out the line to the street, and it's a constant thing. Mud always goes in there, clogs the line. We have a good tenant out there that she kind of takes the bull by the horns for us, and she makes sure it stays clean. And we didn't get any flooding or anything out there, but like I said, it's just a different class of people. When you got the rents that low, it's just a different.
Right.
You're dealing with just different people.
Now, did you rename the complex when you bought it?
So we actually met on our Facebook page. We actually had a little poll. We had 2 different names, and we haven't really done that. I think what we're going to do is we're going to wait till we paint it, and then we're going to get us a brand new name. And I always joke with my partners, I want to call it Del Boca Vista from Seinfeld, you know, and they want to call it something else. So we're kind of going round and around,
Right.
man. So we're going to get it painted. We're going to get everything up to snuff, and then we're going to get a good name change, and
Well, I would
just really start
assume,
doing some work on
yeah. I mean, I would assume that that's the best way to reposition a complex that has a bad reputation would be to do the name change, do the improvements,
it. Yep.
paint the building so that newcomers don't know that property's past, right?
Sure, exactly, exactly. And the great thing is, man, I'll tell you what, we went out there and we replaced like 3 stoves for the tenants, 2 refrigerators, and I mean, just to hear the tenants say, "Hey, thank you very much, I really appreciate it." You don't know how long the the stove's not worked, and you're going, "Man, you don't have a stove? Like you lived there for 6 months with no stove? Like how'd you cook your food?" And it's
Mm.
just like, and I don't like to see that, and I don't like our properties to be run that way, But when you take over a property like this was a D class property. It wasn't even C class really. It was a D class property. Um, I'll say this: the deal I got from Cody Pirtle, is 22 units in League City. 10 of the units were vacant down to the studs. Like down, you can stand on one end of the building and look through 3 units, on the first floor. That property was in better shape than this one is in Alvin. So like I said, there was roach infestations, bed bugs, fleas, you name it. We had
All that stuff.
all that stuff. Man, I had an exterminator go out there and he was like, "Man, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've never seen something so bad." And it's just
Dude,
like,
listen, man. I've lived in A-class properties with roaches, bro. I
yeah,
mean, you wouldn't believe it, but you'll see it. Like, you
yeah,
open up a cabinet and see a roach. And you're like, what the, you know? I
yep,
think that,
yep,
it happens, bro. It
yeah,
happens. It's
yep,
what the managers do about it. I
yeah,
judge my
exactly.
where I live, like apartments, residences. I judge based on their maintenance team, bro. Like how fast. I ain't waiting 3 days for you to come and change, you know, whatever needs to be changed
Right,
out. Like that.
exactly, exactly.
The hell's going on here?
That's
So
important, man. It's important if you're the consumer, man. You're the customer, and my partners and I all kind of have the same attitude. Look, we can do a $300,000 flip in Pearland, from the studs out. Why do we have a slum? Why are we slumlords in Alvin? That shouldn't be the case, So
mm,
it's a process, though, man. With anything, I mean, honestly, we probably could have had easily about $150,000 budget to get this place up to where I think it needs to be, but we don't need to do it all at one time. It's cash flowing right now. We have units that we're working on that will be full in the next, hopefully 2 or 3 months, and that'll just help the cash flow. And it's a process, man. We're not trying to rush it.
right. So Tim, let's break this down for the people out there because I know that there's somebody listening to this and they want to buy an apartment building. They want to get into the multifamily space. But the multifamily space is super intimidating, right? And I'm sure you would agree, maybe not now so much that you're doing big deals, but when you first got started, it's like, okay, I could buy a house, I could flip it. But an apartment building, now I'm working with like 10, 15 units, families, rent. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. But I want to break it down for the listener out there to show them that it is possible and it might not be as scary as they think. So let's talk about if we can dissect this 28 unit deal that you own in Alvin, right? You mentioned owner financing. So could you go through us? First off, where'd you get the lead?
Man, so basically, my partner, Mike, this kid's a genius, man. He's 21 years old. I mean, I wish I had a smartphone when I was 21. Very real estate savvy, very tech savvy. He actually was just cold calling one day and came across this lady, and actually she had another offer on the table, but she didn't like the guy that she was dealing with, and she really didn't want to sell. And he kind of kept peeling the onion a little bit, right? And he got down to what her motivation was. She liked the income, but didn't like the hassles of dealing with the tenants and dealing with repairs and, calls about this and calls about that, and pitched the owner finance deal.
So
And
so it started as a cold call.
started as a cold call.
Cold call.
We lead generate every day from 9 to 11 is my lead generation time.
Okay.
In other words, if I get a call from anybody that's not my wife or a family emergency, I don't answer the phone.
And you can pinpoint people that own apartment buildings.
Yep.
Okay.
So what we do is we have a little software that we use that we basically go to like Alvin and we say any units from 5 to 100, and we hit enter and it pulls their name, address, and then we actually skip trace their phone number.
Gotcha. Okay. So you get this lead. Your partner cold calls. You find out that the owner might be interested in selling. So you put together some sort of like an LOI, right? You're like, hey,
Right.
this is what we can do. What were the terms of the deal? What were the numbers?
So she was wanting like a million one. We ran the numbers based on what she gave us, and we were like, no, that can't work, but we could do like 950. You know, I think 950 was, I think it might have been like an 11 cap, I think at the time. I'd have to look at the numbers again. Told her we do an owner finance. We asked her how much she'd be wanting to do owner finance. We pitched the fact that the owner finance was, you still own the property. One, you can always take it back over if we default. Still getting the constant cash flow, and and you're not losing anything, right? You're still in the property, but you don't have to deal with the tenants complaining, any repairs, things like that. Basically pitched it to her and said, what makes you happy? What kind of down payment? She said she wanted 150,000 down. She wanted to pay her house off. And then we had to try and fit in we did a 30-year amortization schedule with I think we did a 5-year balloon on it. I had work, but I think we did a 5-year. And then we asked her how much she wanted monthly. Well, at first she came back with like 7,000, 7,800 or whatever. Our other partner, Ozzy, he was like, nope, we can do this. And we ended up about 5,000 all in monthly that we pay them. And then, then we put the $150,000 down that we actually got from our private money lender, who does who finances our flips. But the beauty of this whole deal, man, was we got the owners to take a seller second. So the guy our lender who gave us our $150,000 down is in first lien position for $1 million property for $150,000. So the sellers took a second, and we did the paperwork, and like I said, we renegotiated a small reduction, which is how we ended up getting 10,000 back at closing. And so we took over the property. Yeah, we took over the property and make our payments every month, man, and just keep running it. They get paid, our lender gets paid. Plus, if we ever default, he can call the note on it, and he's got $1 million asset for 150 grand.
Right. Yeah, I'm shocked that the woman would take a second position on her own property. Yeah. So you mentioned the 5-year balloon, right? So that means basically you're on a 30-year schedule payment wise, but you have a 5-year balloon. So you gotta refinance this thing and pay off the original owner within 5 years. Correct? Right.
Correct.
So you had confidence that you were going to be able to do that and take it to a bank and actually get the refinance approved. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we did it based on the numbers. So what we did was we took her. So whenever we call a multifamily person, and this goes for anybody anywhere in the world that's going to work, whether you're in Peru, Asia, whatever, Africa, Pearland, whatever, you want to get their rents and their expenses. And then you want to get their occupancy, maybe like a unit mix. From there, we knew she had 6 vacants. So we knew what kind of cash flow she was doing with just 6 vacants. And she had those vacants because she just didn't fill them. She didn't care. She didn't do background checks. She didn't do any of that stuff. She didn't have leases. Just really mom and pop, man. Just mom and pop, So, we did the actuals, made her an offer based on the actuals. Then we performed it out to show what it could do. And that was just our information. That wasn't anybody else's information. It was just something that we had. So I think once we get everything stabilized, we get everything rented out, 100% occupied, man, we're going to be in all day, at least 1.5, 1.5, 1.6,
Nice.
So we're only in it for 950. Yeah, man. So we'll be able to do a cash out refinance in hopefully 3 years or so. And,
awesome, bro.
Then we take that equity and we turn around and go put it down on something bigger,
I love it, bro. It's the
that's
name
how
of
they
the
play the
game.
game.
That's it, bro. That's Monopoly right there.
That's it.
Thanks for sharing that process with us, bro.
Yep, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
So, Tim, going back to your process, your story coming up. I know we got sidetracked a bit, but you mentioned that you took a job in the chemical plants, right? Because that's a huge industry down in Southeast Texas, right? Oil and gas, right? Big business, big industry. So you took a job there, and what were you doing? Like, what was your role?
Man, I was in operations. I wore the coveralls, overalls, whatever, fire retardant suits, and basically I ran a unit, monitoring temperatures, pressures, switching pumps, hooking up trailers, tank gauging, mixing of tanks to get a certain blend, for a chemical or gasoline, whatever. There towards the end of my career, I was working on the console jobs where I was actually monitoring the, 5 or 6 different distillation columns where we were taking the crude out of the ground and we were pulling off the stuff we needed and then sending the rest of the refinery to make gasoline and make, different diesel grades and 87, 89s, things like that. I worked in an isoprene unit. It's used in making different plastics and stuff. And then I worked in the butadiene unit, which is also worked in like rubber or manufacturing of tires.
That
So
that
I started.
chemical, butadiene,
Yep.
that recent chemical spill or fire, wasn't that one of the main chemicals
Yes.
that was
Yes, it
being
was. Yeah, the one. Yep. Yep.
that
Man,
Deer
when was
Park?
that?
Was
Was
it the
that?
Deer Park
Yep.
fire?
It was, so it was actually that facility is next door to Shell where I used to work.
Okay.
So it's like literally, it's like
Yeah,
there
I
was a
know where
place
that
right next
shell.
door.
Right
But
on. Yeah.
butadiene was the main thing right there at 225 in the Beltway. Yeah, butadiene was one of the main components in that fire. So some bad stuff, man. I was an industrial firefighter for about 12 years, and I was an EMT for about 10 of those years. Um, but I did it from on the industrial level. Like I didn't go right in an ambulance or anything like that. I basically was on the emergency response team, and there was a fire, I would either be fighting the fire, or I would be treating injured workers, or taking vitals for firefighters who have come out of bunker gear and wearing an oxygen tank. It adds about 35, 40 pounds of weight to your body already, and plus you're moving around dragging hoses and trying to secure the fire, right? I enjoyed that, man. I loved it. I enjoyed being in there and doing that stuff. And um, I think in January I'll be full time investing for 3 years. I left that world about 3 years ago. So,
Mm.
um, but yeah, a buddy of mine over at Shell was how I got my license. He actually was a broker, just did his stuff here out of the house, worked off referrals, and he was like, "Man, I could use extra hand if you ever want to get your license." And I'd always thought about it, and I decided to get it. So
Now, I'm assuming working in the chemical business, you had a pretty good salary working your gig because oil and gas. I mean,
yeah,
people know, man, you can make some good money in that industry. Um, were you afraid of leaving a secure salary to get into your own business as an entrepreneur?
yeah, man. I mean, and as an operator, I think I was making like 47, 48 an hour, and nights, weekends, holidays, holiday pay, double time and a half, and so you're making 120 bucks an hour or whatever. I mean, I made about 120 a year if I just showed up, didn't work any overtime, man. And last 4 or 5 years at Shell, I didn't work any overtime. I was just using that as kind of like my insurance and things like that. And yeah, I was really worried about it, man. I really was, but um, what you focus on expands. The first few months on my own, I mean, I grew up exponentially, man. I had so many deals under contract. I had 4 closings in 1 month, 3 closings the next month, 6 closings in 1 month. And in 2017, or in 2018, I should say, I had in March, I had 6 closings. In April, I had 5 closings. In May, I had 7 closings. And we're talking about multifamily. We're not talking about houses. At the time, I was only doing multifamily, you know. Um, so I mean, those are some good paychecks. But like I said, I was always calling. I was on the phones. At the time, I was on the phones almost all day. So I wasn't really time blocking. I was just calling until I just ran out of people to call, or I just
Mm,
like, oh, I got to take a break. Where now I'm kind of regimented. I call 9 to 11, 11 to 1. I do appointments. 1 to 3, I call a little bit more. And then 3 to 5, I'm picking the kids up from school, getting them to softball, basketball, whatever, golf. You
right.
know, but yeah, man, it was a big thing that weighed on my mind. I mean, that's a set paycheck. If I show up to work, I get that money. Where
Exactly.
in the real estate game, man, you gotta create your paycheck,
You
man. You
gotta
really do.
grind, man. And I tell all newcomers to the industry, Tim, you need to treat real estate like a business, not a hobby. If you treat it like a hobby,
Yep.
it's not gonna work. You can make 100 grand on one deal, and that'll be the only deal you do for the next 5 years if you're not really treating this thing like a business and buying for
Yep.
cash flow, because there's not always going to be deals. Like, a lot of people get into the industry, and I've actually learned this myself. I got into the industry in 2014. Back in 2015, I was buying houses for 35 grand. Left and right, bro. In Pasadena, I was buying 5 to 10 houses at a time. No problem. We're not in that market anymore, man.
Nope.
The houses that I was buying for 35K are selling for 100K. Distressed.
Yes.
If I didn't adjust my business, I would have been out of business a long time ago, because I got fixated and got romantic about those numbers. And now I'm like, well, what do I do now? Right.
Yeah.
So to all newcomers, man, treat the business like a business and not just a hobby, and learn to adjust with market cycles. Some people, man, they get in, they make a quick 30, 40K, and they're like, oh, I could quit my career. I'm good. It's always going to be like this.
I got this. Yep.
But that's not the truth, man.
And let me tell you, how I got started into the commercial side, the multifamily side. Man, back in, late 2016 and 2017, like my mom, she's retired from NASA, and what I would do with her is, I'd write letters, man. So I go to like Meyerland, and, I cut my teeth in Meyerland area, Beauchamp, down by the courthouse, Houston Avenue, off Dart, Edwards, Bingham. The first lot I ever sold was off Bingham Street, man, right there on the corner. It's a new house now. I think Urban Lofts has a little thing around the side, some townhomes, but I had a little 6,000 square foot lot, man. I sent the lady a letter, and, we sold the property real quick. I found a developer, and I started building my buyer's list, and I actually bought a buyer's list from a good friend of mine that I met, and we did a flip together. And, so I really appreciate him for that. That buyer's list has been, priceless to me. But man, so back in my 2016, 2017, my mom and I would just drive up and down these streets, and she'd have a big all-around wound notebook, and like she would write Edwards, and we'd drive down, and she'd look out the passenger side, I'd look out the driver's side, and I'd just call out numbers. We'd drive around for like 6-7 hours, and what I would do is I'd get about 300 or 400 addresses, and then we'd go home, and she'd print the letters and address them for me. And when I wholesale the deal, I give her 10% of what I made. So if I made $5,000, I give her, $500, $1,000, or if I made 20 grand, I gave her, I gave her $5 or $6 grand or whatever. I just gave her whatever, man. It was like an employee, right? Well, back when Harvey came through, I was doing deals left and right, and I didn't want to be that shark, man. Didn't want to be that guy who was taking advantage of people that their stuff's in the driveway, and I'm making them an offer on their house and trying to get the lowest price possible. So, man, I had this little old lady over there in Post Oak Terrace right there, 610 Meyerland on the inside of the loop. And I made her an offer, and she got really mad at me. She said, man, you're $50,000 less than the other guy that made me the offer yesterday. And I said, look, I showed her the numbers. I'm like, we all do our numbers the same way. I'm like, there's no way this guy can make this work for you. She said, nope, I got to go with the higher offer. I said, okay, here's my information. Call me in 30 days when he can't close. I'll come back. My offer will be lower, but I'll still do the deal with you. Well, she called me back about 40 days later, and she's like, you were right. He couldn't make it work. And of course it was a newbie, I'm sure, because, Harvey made everybody in Houston two things, made them wholesalers and made them contractors, bro. So I just kind of started evolving and started thinking, man, what am I going to do now? Like, how am I going to make phone calls? How am I going to make money? I was still working at the plants, but I was like, man, let me kind of flip the script and look at something different. So I started looking at apartments, came across a 5-unit deal in Angleton, and the guy had like 12 units in East Texas somewhere. And so I was like, well, let me figure it out. So I started Googling, cap rates, NOI. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. And he was like, I want this price. I'm like, okay, let me see if that works. Well, put it under contract. Luckily, I had a good relationship with the guy, and he reduced a couple times, and I made a nice little spread on it. But I was still learning, So, man, I really dug into it full bore and just started to figure out how much I could learn about it. And, that's how I got to where I am today. We talk about cap rates and NOIs and repairs and, unit mixes. It starts out as a script, and then it ends up being a conversation. So you can have educated conversations with these owners, and they, I call people now, and they're like, you're the 10th call I've gotten this month, and it's October 1st or September 5th. I'm like, wow, you've had 10 calls, just this month. And I ask people, like, why are you on the phone with me then? And they're like, well, you're one of the few that sound educated. I'm like, oh, okay. I appreciate it, but man, these newbies get out there, or, they watch a video, or they they go to a seminar, man, and they're really doing the business. They really just need slow down and develop their strategies and get the right way to do things, man. That's what messes it up for people like you and me even today. I call a guy and he says his 5 units is worth a million two, and I'm like, man, where'd you get the number from? Like when I ask people they want to sell and they give me a price, I'm like, where'd you get the number from? Just curious. Well, I was offered that before. Okay, well, did it close? I know the answer is no, because you still own the property. He's like, well, that's what this guy gave me. Well, I mean, that's a 2 cap. Doesn't make sense, man. So, I now, man, I like to just kind of educate people. Like, I'll see stuff on Facebook, man, and I just throw it out there. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm like, hey, do this, or hey, do that, and do this. You're not doing this right.
It's just about transparency, bro.
Man, it is.
Like, bro, when I was wholesaling years and years ago, I would comp the property with the seller right there. I'd say, hey, let's look at the market together.
Yes.
This is what your property can sell for if you fix it up. If you have the cash and the contractors and the knowledge, do it yourself, and this is what you can sell for. If not, I'll buy it at a discount because I'm gonna have to do the work. And when you paint that picture, there's no secrets, man.
No. Well, the best thing I ever did, man, was I had a little spreadsheet, and I had a little checkbox with all the repairs you think you'd have to make, and I would let them walk me through the house. And you need a new roof, you need a new fence, you need this, and then on the other side, I had my costs. 3% to sell the house, holding costs, hard money costs, closing costs, and I would show people, whether it was an old man or a young lady or whatever. I'm like, look, HGTV, I'm not going to make $1 million off your property. I had a lady one time said, you're going to make $1 million off my house. I'm like, your house I'm buying for 150. I may sell it for 210. How am I making $1 million? That doesn't even make sense. So you have to show people and show the public. You have to educate them. And I enjoy the education part of it because they don't realize, man, there's so many people that don't realize that it's just like, I'm only going to make this much money. If you want to make this much money, then you put the blood, sweat, and tears into the work. You look at the deadlines and the scheduling, and you make sure the contractors are doing their job and doing their job the right way. I mean, how many times have you seen a contractor say he's finished and you go find 5 things right away? I'm sure you had that plenty of times.
Of course.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's
of course
it's not easy.
You got to trust but verify, brother.
Yeah, exactly, exactly, man. So it's just hard, man. In my heart of hearts, I like to think people, the older we get, are doing the right thing. But everyone's out for themselves or whatever. But I like, when I can educate. That's why we did a mastermind, dude, for $200 a person. I'm like, let's just teach people. God, if we do anything, at the end of the day, let's teach people. At least we don't have these people running around making crazy offers with a handwritten contract with, $1 earnest money. I just did a deal in Alvin, 8 units, and he was so mad at me. And we sold the deal. I sold it to another guy because we didn't want to deal with it. But he said the last wholesaler had him at $1 for a $400,000 contract. I'm like, and you signed it?
That's what these people are teaching, man.
Yeah, man.
That's what they're teaching, bro. It's crazy, right? $1 earnest money, like.
Yeah, I'm like, really? No option money. I'm like, no option money. I'm like, come on, dude. Like, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
No option means you void your option. You have no option. You got to buy it.
Man, it's definitely a interesting business, brother. But Tim, I wanna switch gears up here for a minute, man, and talk about why you even do what you do in the first place, right? So, what's your purpose here? Like, what do you want to do? You want to make a bunch of money? Do what? Right? What's it look like for you?
Man, I'll be honest with you. I have a huge buyers list nationwide. When I send out a deal, I get calls from New York to California. And man, I had the attitude of, I'll sell it. Well, I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years, and wholesaling longer than, 7, 8 years, whatever. And you're always chasing that deal. And I'm looking now just for the long-term income. I call these people, and it's funny, I call them and they're 78, 80 years old. And they're like, well, this is my retirement. And I talked to a lady about 2 years ago, and she's like, this is all I have left. I'm going to hold on to this complex until I retire, until I'm ready to just, until I'm at the very end, and I'll sell it. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And that kind of held true with me, man. I'm like, I'm 45 years old. I got to start bringing in that passive income, that mailbox money. That way when I'm 50 and 60 and 70 years old, that's my retirement. Right now, man, my goal is, I want to get a portfolio of assets, man. I can just watch them cash flow, man, and just if I want to take a vacation and take a vacation, take off 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to take off 2 or 3 weeks. It's something I'm going to do, and I want to be able to have the legacy to pass down to my kids, man. That's the main thing, I always hear the same thing. I'm leaving this for my son, leaving this for my daughter. Well, I got 3 kids, man. I at least got to buy 3 complexes. That way I can leave one to each one of them, that's my goal. I'd like to, my goal would be to ultimately leave them a 100-unit complex apiece and be like, here you go, do what you want with it, and that's it, but my biggest goal, man, is, like I said, just building a nice little portfolio where I can be comfortable, where I can feed my family, put my kids through college, and help people along the way. Really, I've had a couple of partners in the last 5 years, and I've had a couple of guys that it didn't work out, and they always come back and say, hey, thanks for everything you taught me, I appreciate it. And to me, that's I enjoy that, but the partnerships they are what they are. I got a really good partnership now with my other 2 guys, but Mike and Ozzy, but we're all on the same page. We want to build the long-term wealth, and that's the main thing.
I love it, brother. Great knowledge there, man. A lot of golden nuggets. Very inspiring. Side note, I see that you have, is that an Astros plaque there in the back? Behind you?
Yep.
So at the time we're recording this, tomorrow night, right, is playoffs. Is it tomorrow night? Minnesota?
I think they're playing during the day. Yeah, they're playing
tomorrow
during the day. Astros always get the day slot.
What you thinking, man? They gonna take this or what?
Man, I don't know. Verlander had a Tommy John. We've got McCullers, who's sporadic, man. I love my Astros, man. I love my Astros. I really do. I grew up. I was at the Astros Dodger game that went 22 innings back in the 90s, and I was there when Randy Johnson lost to the Padres in the playoffs, and we should have won the World Series back in '93 or '94, I think is what it was. I wasn't there when they won the World Series, but I was there at Game 2, the first home win, but on Texas soil, first World Series win. I don't think it's their year, man. I think we're about to enter a rebuilding mode. We might lose Springer, we might lose Correa next year, but
are there contracts up?
Springer's a free agent. I'd heard he signed a 5-year deal, but it never came out in public. So I think it was a rumor. And then Correa, I think we only have 1 more year on Correa.
Dude, the Stros can't lose Correa, man. That guy's a stud,
man.
brother.
Man,
I think this year is Dodgers year, bro. Dodgers or
I
Tampa.
Think so.
One of them.
I mean, man, Dodgers are just strong. They've been there 2 years in a row and lost it both times. I think this year is their year to go to break through.
Mm-hmm.
Much as I hate them, I can't stand the Dodgers, man. I can't stand them.
Man, Tim, brother, the people have been tuned in, man. We've been rocking for almost an hour. People are inspired, man. They want to connect with you. They want to learn from you, all that good stuff, man. Before we wrap up, what's your message to the people, man? What do you want people to know?
I guess the biggest thing, man, is if you don't know, reach out. Ozzy always says the same thing. He always says no one gets help on a secret. Before you get out there and make a bad deal, put yourself in a bad spot, man, reach out, ask somebody, put it on Google, put it on Facebook. There's a lot of groups out there. Just put a general question out there and just say, hey, please, I'm asking for advice. Whatever. Don't be too proud to ask, man. I mean, I'll admit I've almost been sued doing wholesaling. I've almost gotten sued by a homeowner. I had to get an attorney to write a letter or write a response to their attorney, man. So get advice, man. Get help. Do it the right way. You're not hurting anybody but yourself and the business. Whether, people look bad on wholesalers and they talk crap about wholesalers, but man, it's the few bad apples out there that spoil it for everybody, and I even talk to homeowners that are like, oh, this scam artist was this. And I'm like, hey, look, wasn't a scam artist. He's just a guy that didn't know what he was doing. I'm a savvy investor. I know what I'm doing, so, and get help. You don't know, ask, just ask, and if someone laughs at you, then that's someone else, eventually you're going to find somebody, and hey, you might even find me and be like, hey, I saw your podcast with Ross and, I'll help you, man. I'm not going to charge you. I'm not that guy that says, hey, sign up for this, in order for me to answer your question. I don't live that way. So just ask, man. Just ask for help.
I love it, brother. That's great advice, man. And we're gonna put your socials and all that good stuff in the show notes so people can connect with you
Perfect.
and
Awesome.
reach out. Tim, it's been a pleasure, my man. Great
Man,
story,
Ross,
brother.
you too. You
And
too, man. It's great to see you.
you too, brother. I
Thank
hope
you for having me.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for having
Enjoy
me. I
the day.
appreciate it. Absolutely.
Later, brother.